What's going on, guys? Snake Eyes here, and today I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys some more Bloodborne news. It's definitely a lot of news, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Yesterday, Famitsu, a Japanese magazine, released an article about Bloodborne, showing off some screenshots and also talking a little bit more about the game. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna show you guys the screenshots, and then I'm also gonna show you those exact same screenshots on the actual pages of that magazine themselves, so that way you guys can get a better look at both of them. I'm going to talk about some of the small things first, and then I'm going to leave the two very big things more towards the end. These screenshots kind of summarize a couple of different things. It shows off a new NPC, shows off a new area, or two new areas actually, one new enemy, and another weapon. Well, technically two, but I'll talk about that in just a second. What I'm going to go ahead and cover right now is the new enemy in the game, and what you're seeing right now is an enemy called the Hemwick's Witches. These are going to be enemies that you're going to see in the Hemwick Cemetery area. And what's interesting for me is that Bloodborne is technically a game, or no, it's a game that technically doesn't have any magic in it. So to have enemies called witches, it's kind of interesting to see exactly how they're going to be attacking, if they're going to be using magic or any other type of attack. I really don't know. It's still way too early to speculate, but to have enemies like this in a game that supposedly has no magic is definitely interesting, and I really can't wait to see more. In another screenshot, you get to see a new area which is called the Castle Canehurst. Just by looking at this level, or looking at the screenshot, I can tell that this level really looks badass. Seeing as it's a castle, I'm really hoping that they add a lot of intricate detail in its level design, making it a pretty awesome place. And just by looking at it, it looks like it's a pretty wide open area, which is something that I really do like. It's something that I feel like From does really well. Seeing this really makes me excited, and what I'm really hoping out of it is an awesome, night boss or something like that, or some really kick-ass night looking enemies, some really awesome armor sets and shit like that. That's what I'm hoping out of it. You get to see another area which is called the Underground Ruins, and I'm gonna go ahead and save that for last because that place is actually pretty special. But moving on, you get to see a new weapon which is called the Sword Stick. Keep in mind that that is the English translation, or the rough English translation of the original Japanese name. Also keep in mind that these names may or may not change when the game is actually released. So like I said, all these things are subject to change, but for what it's called now, it's called the Sword Stick, and what it's going to be in the game is going to be a cane disguised as a sword, which can bust out into a whip. I think that's really awesome. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen that in a movie or two. It's always something that I really do like because it kind of adds a level of stealth. Obviously not in the game and not in the mechanics, but just like its design and stuff like that. And I'm just going off of what movies I've seen and shit like that. I've always liked that kind of design. Also, what I'm hoping out of this weapon is that it's the first weapon with 3 uses. This is purely speculation, by the way. I'm hoping that this is the first weapon with 3 different uses, because I can see it being used for 3 different reasons. In its base form, it can be a blunt weapon, dealing blunt damage, obviously. And then when you need to use a slashing weapon, you can kind of bust it out into the sword. And then if you need extra range, you can actually break it out into a whip. That would be really awesome. More than likely, that's probably not going to happen. It's probably just going to be a sword / whip combo. But I mean, I can pretty much hope, right? Now moving on to one very special screenshot, you get to see a new NPC in the game. His name is Old Hunter de Yura, and if you're looking at the screenshot, I'm pretty sure you noticed the exact same thing that I noticed the first time that I looked at the screenshot, and that's the huge Gatling gun that's attached to this dude's back. In all the articles that I was reading all across Twitter and everything like that, people were shouting OP at the top of their lungs. In all honesty, I really don't think that. And if you guys care enough to hear my opinion on it, hopefully I can kind of swing you guys in the direction that this weapon may not be as powerful as you might think. And in all honesty, this weapon has the potential to actually be fairly balanced. Now, talking a little bit more about this weapon, there are 2 things that I see about this weapon, and that is that it only has 4 barrels on it, and those barrels are huge. Now, what that tells me is that the fire rate on it is actually going to be pretty slow, but also the damage on it might be actually pretty awesome. Most of the guns that you've seen so far have been shown as a strategic weapon, I guess, if that makes sense, being used as a way to stagger your opponent, so that way you can actually land a critical hit with your main hand weapon. This to me looks like a straight up primary weapon that you use to deal damage, but seeing as it's strapped to a shoulder, it makes me think that it's going to be a freehand weapon. So while he's firing it, a couple of balancing things that these guys can do is that every single time it shoots, it can take a chunk off of your stamina, making your use a little limited. Not only that, every single time you shoot, your movement speed can either be very limited or basically not existent at all. And seeing the sheer bulk of this weapon, I mean, all you would really have to do is just slap on a pretty crazy I guess like weight on it, and I mean, certain builds probably won't even be able to use it. Not only that, I mean, you can make the strength requirement like 50 or something like that. All in all, I see a lot of things that can actually be used to make the weapon a little bit more balanced. What I'm really hoping, and this is going back on speculation, is that I'm really hoping that this weapon is not a multi-use weapon. Gatling guns in general have been used in the real world on a stand, because the recoil on those weapons are pretty damn huge, and even though it's a game, I would hate to see it used in a multi-purpose way, only for the simple fact that if this weapon can break out into like a stand of some sort, more towards like the edge of the gun where the person might be handling it, it can act as a mini turret. And even though it has a slow fire rate from the looks of it, I really hope that that's not the case, only for the simple fact that in PvP, I can see that being abused pretty damn easily. All somebody would really have to do is go into a corner, wait for an invasion, or summon somebody to fight, and then as soon as they come into the game, just mow them down. And if they do the same mechanic like they do with great bows, then one shot with this weapon would either knock you down or stagger you like hell. I really hope that that's not the case. I just hope that this weapon is what it is, and obviously there are going to be some cons to it. The pros are obviously going to be the damage, but all in all, I don't think it's as OP as people might think it is. I can see just by looking at it how people might assume that, but if you really think about it, it just goes back to me saying that I don't think it's going to be as powerful as people might think. Now on to the biggest news that was released, and all of this is not really set in stone, so take what I say from here on out very, very lightly. In one of the screenshots that they show, they have a title for it, which is called the Underground Ruins, which is going to be a new area featured in Bloodborne that's going to be underneath Yharnam. Also, what made this screenshot unique is that there was actually subtext along with this screenshot, which I'm going to go ahead and read right now. Deep under the city of Yharnam lies an expansive network of multi-leveled ruins, seemingly much older than Yharnam itself and crafted by something other than human hands. What's more, these ruins appear differently to each hunter brave enough to enter. Now, reading across multiple articles and all that, people have been saying a lot of different things. Some people have been saying that the entire game of Bloodborne is going to be randomly generated every playthrough. Other people have been saying that in the article itself, in the interview, the producer of Bloodborne himself confirmed that Bloodborne will have randomly generated dungeons. And then other people have been saying that it's more confined towards the underground ruins itself. Basically, my point is that a lot of people have been saying a lot of different things, but the main agreed upon thing is that Bloodborne will feature some sort of randomly generated levels. Exactly how far that expands, I'm really not too sure, because from what I'm reading, this is my personal opinion, I don't think that the entire game is going to be randomly generated every single time. Only for the simple fact that it's still very early in the, I guess, next gen lifetime to be doing stuff like that. Doing stuff like that on a game like Bloodborne and the detail that the game has would really leave the door open for tons of glitches, tons of bugs, and just a lot of problems. The safe thing to do is to confine it to one area and really just make it so where if you have a problem like that happen, then all you would really have to do is patch that one area and not the entire game. And hell, I would really love it if they randomly generated Bloodborne as a game every single time you play it. I would probably play through that game non-stop, pretty much probably until the next game were to release. But realistically, I think it's still way too early to be trying things like that. I'm leaning more towards it being confined in the underground ruins. There are two things in that text that kind of stuck out in my mind, which I'm going to go ahead and say right now. And it says that deep under the city of Yharnam lies an expansive, multi-leveled ruin. So obviously it's going to be more than just one area. It's going to be multi-leveled, as the thing said. But not only that, it also says that these ruins appear differently to each hunter brave enough to enter. They don't really define each hunter. What I take that as is per character. So that might not necessarily mean per playthrough. You can go into New Game Plus and it might be the exact same dungeon as it was in the first New Game. At the same time, what I'm really hoping that it is that every single time you go in there, I know I just read it out loud, it says each hunter, but that's something that I would really like, because basically what they would be doing is they would be making that area a Binding of Isaac. The reason I say they would be making it a Binding of Isaac is because the Binding of Isaac, every playthrough is very different, because every single time you play through the game, they randomly generate it between different areas. The level layout is always different. Everything about it, bosses, items, very, very different. Having something like that in a Bloodborne game would be really awesome. And to be honest, I would love doing runs like that as a common thing for my channel. I think that would be really damn awesome, and I'm pretty sure a lot of YouTubers would agree on that as well, because that would make the replayability on Bloodborne tremendous, and I would really love playing the game. But what I'm afraid of is that little text of each hunter. I'm thinking that maybe once I pick my character, it's gonna get a randomly generated dungeon in the underground ruins, and that's the one it's gonna be. And yeah, mine's might be different than yours, but it's still gonna be the same after the second playthrough to me. And it's kind of crazy because I really want to get hyped for that news, because it's definitely huge news. It's something that is really unheard of in a game like Bloodborne, or any game that's become AAA. That's pretty much unheard of. But in all honesty, I really know not to get my hopes up too high, because in a game developing perspective, pulling stuff off like that is really difficult. It's a lot easier to do it on games like The Binding of Isaac, because they're not really coding a lot of graphics and a lot of AI patterns and all that stuff. Even though it is definitely very, work heavy. Doing it with a game like Bloodborne, or really just any game for the next gen console that is like really up there in the graphic power and all that stuff, would still be very difficult. And like I said, it would just leave the door open for tons of bugs and glitches. And in all honesty, I don't think that they'll do that for the entire game, only because that just really makes sense to not do it for that. At least not this early, because the hardware is still new to these guys. And that's just not with From Software. That's like that with everybody. I mean, you can see that with Assassin's Creed. You can see that with Watch Dogs. Any game really lately that's been released for the next gen console, it's not that these guys aren't giving a shit about their game. It's just that they really don't know how to optimize their games to fit the hardware on these consoles, and that's why these games are coming out as glitchy as they are. Yes, it's unfortunate, but I mean, next year I don't see it being a problem, only for the simple fact that they've had an entire year to kind of work out the kinks on exactly how these consoles work. I'm gonna go ahead and stop there, because I mean, that's just gonna run onto a pretty long rant that I'm pretty sure you guys don't really want to hear, and I'm just gonna leave it on the note that I really hope that I can go into the underground ruins and expect a different dungeon every single time, and not have to either make a new character or start another new game to get a different experience. That's just my personal thoughts. Let me know what you guys think, because I'm really interested. Other than that, as far as the news goes, that's pretty much it. More news is going to come out December 6th, because that's when the PlayStation Experience convention starts in Las Vegas. And Bloodborne is definitely going to have a panel there where they're going to release a lot more news and just a lot more information about the game. I went ahead and told you that because if you don't want to wait for me to make the video, then on December 6th and 7th, you can go ahead and look up Bloodborne, read up on the news that they've been releasing. And if you guys find something and you want to let me know, I'd really appreciate that because that would really help me out. But for the most part, I'm still going to be making a video updating you on Bloodborne when that news releases. But for the most part, that's pretty much going to wrap it up. Let me know what you guys think about all the information that has been announced for Bloodborne. Let me know if you're really hyped about it. And also let me know what you guys might think. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to leave a link in all of the articles that I've read, all the places where I got the screenshots and whatnot, so that way you guys can check it out if you want. But for the most part, that's pretty much going to wrap up the video. So leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, take care.